Hey everybody, Chris here from It's Mead Made, and today we are going to be jumping into Cura. I know when I first got started in Cura many years ago, all of these different colors all over the place confused the ever-living crap out of me. I just didn't understand, why is this thing yellow? Why is that thing blue? Why is the inside orange? Because I would be watching tutorials and then it would be blue on somebody else's. I want to try to alleviate some of that frustration you may be having and also help you understand all of the different colors that maybe you just never even thought of, or maybe the colors just didn't bother you as much as it did me. I know when I get into something, I like to understand every aspect of it. So when I see something and I can't figure out why in the is that yellow? It bothers me, so I had to do a lot of research and I finally figured it out. So this is my video for you to help you save some of that frustration and learn why in the heck that thing's yellow. So let's go ahead, jump over to the computer, and get started. So we're in Cura, and the first thing I want to talk about is the color of my background. Depending on who you watch, if you've watched a bunch of tutorials or seen screen grabs of other people, you may have noticed that there's sometimes that you'll see a dark color background, and other times it might be like a white background. Now let me show you how you change that. So first, all you go up to is your preferences. So once you have opened up your preferences, click on the General tab, and then right here where it says Theme, Ultimaker Dark. That is actually what I'm on. And you've got a few options here. Colorblind Assist Dark, Colorblind Assist Light, Ultimaker, and Ultimaker Dark. I am on Ultimaker Dark because I like to have that contrast. But if I click on Ultimaker and then just come down here to the bottom and hit close, there you go. Yeah, it doesn't change it for you. To be able to initiate these settings, what you have to do is you have to close the program and reopen it. So let me go ahead and do that for you. So there we go. So I've restarted and now I am in the Ultimaker theme. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this back, but now you know how to change the theme of Cura. So before I throw a model into Cura, I first wanted to go over some of these colored lines and boxes and explain to you exactly what these are. So you see here there is a light blue line that is creating a cube. Now what this is your build volume. And what do I mean by build volume? Once you've actually put in all the correct settings of your 3D printer, this is the physical space that it can print within. So I can make an actual model as big as this area, but I can't go past that. So now you can see that anything that fits in this box, I can 3D print. So in the front left corner here, you are going to see 3 lines. What these 3 lines represent is the 3 dimensions. So you have X, Y, and Z. Everything that is flat on a screen is just X and Y. But when you get into the 3rd dimension, that is your depth, your Z. So you can see right here, red is X, Y is green, and blue is Z. So that's what these 3 little colors mean. It's X, Y, and Z. Alright, so I brought in this sweet chibi Sonic model that I got from 3DXM. And if you're interested in this model, I will put a link to it in the description below. So now that I've brought in a model, now we can see some more options. When we click on the actual model, you're going to see a correlation of colors here. So see this up and down blue? The up and down is blue as well. And if you look over here, Z is blue. So Y is green, and you can see Y right here. And X is red, and there's X right there. So if you ever get lost of like what color is what, you can easily check these colors right here. X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. And the great thing is, these are universal colors. When it comes to almost every single 3D software, X is always red, Y is always green, and Z, you guessed it, is always blue. So now we can see the model is sitting on the bed, and you're going to notice a few colors of just the model sitting right here. If I spin all the way around this, you see like there's a cyan color, there's red, there's yellow, and if you click it, then there's like this light blue outline. Now, first let's get into why this is yellow. This is all determined by our material color. You can actually select your material colors right here by material and have presets for PLA and just about every single type of filament you can think of. So here's some eSun PLA Plus, here's some PETG, and there are all kinds here, and you can add your own and have generic ones. So if I switch this to nylon, and then it's going to give me a warning like we're about to change the settings. Do you want to keep your settings or discard what your settings are right now? I'm going to go ahead and just keep my settings. Now if you look, this is like a green model, and that is because I am using nylon filament for this print. This is also a way to change your settings for the different types of filament you have. So for this nylon, I might print this hotter, and I'll have that in the setting, and it'll automatically change it for me. Cura allows you to select the different types of filament you're using, and each type of filament has its own color. This is to help you to be able to know if you're using the right filament, and I also use it as a reminder. If I see it and I'm like, oh wait, this is in green, that's my nylon filament. I need to switch this over to my generic PLA. And then I'm going to keep my changes since I didn't change anything. And now it is back to yellow. So that is your material colors. Now, if you want to be able to see all of your material colors at once, this is where you can find it. Go up to your preferences, and then go into materials, and then if you see right here, this is everything. So there are generic types of filament. Then if you scroll down, you can see all of these different types of filament. So if I click on eSun, and say the PETG, and you can set these parameters. You can even say how much your spool cost, the weight of it, and this will also help you understand how much each of your prints are costing you. But you can also do that here in the generic. So if you've been wondering why your models are yellow and maybe some other people's colors come in a different color, that is exactly why. Your color material is what determines what color your model is brought in at. Now to tackle the next color on this is this dark red. Now I actually did a video specifically on this for Cura, and this is all dealing with overhangs. Now if we go into our support settings, click on generate supports, and if you look right here, your support overhang angle, that is actually what's determining this red right here. This is, everything here is an angle that is over 45 degrees. So if I put in 90 degrees here, look at how everything is gone. Because now I'm telling Cura, hey, this printer can print at 90-degree angles, like in midair essentially. But Cura knows better. It is actually making everything orange for me to say, hey, this doesn't seem right. So then if I go back down to my 50 degrees, now it's like, yep, that seems more like it. And it will make everything red that is over 50-degree angles. So you can see here, these are everything that is going to be held up by supports. So another thing is if you come underneath your model, you can see this cyan color. What the cyan color represents is your first layer on the bed. If I lift this up, it's no longer touching the bed, and it's red, meaning it needs supports. But if I let go, it'll automatically snap to the bed, and then it'll notify me that this is what your first layer is. Another thing is, you can push this down through your bed. Let's just say I don't want this ground right here. I only want to print the grass. I can actually push this all the way down, so then it will only print that. Now, this will be dark blue. It'll show my model in dark blue, denoting that, hey, this is past your build plate and it will not print. So when you see blue underneath your build plate, that means you're past your build plate and it will not print this. It's basically going to ignore any of this color. And while we're on the subject of ignoring things and not printing them, if you move your model outside of this box, it cannot print it. So if you see here, if I move it out here, now my model is going to give me this striped pattern. And what this striped pattern means is it is not going to print and it is going to be ignored. Now you can have multiple models just hanging out here and still slice it. Let's just say I want to multiply this Sonic. And I have two of them. One is on the build plate and one is out here. So you can see that this is not going to print, but this is going to print. So next, I guess you're wondering So next, you might be wondering, what if it's only halfway on the build plate? Since the model is partially off of a build plate, it will not print, and you will see it with the striped pattern. And this striped colored pattern means it is going to be ignored in the slicing process. And the one last color I will talk about when it comes to just your models before you prepare them is when I click from one to another, you see that light blue outline. That light blue outline indicates that this model is selected. So I can move on this one, and if I click on this, it shows that, and then I can move this. But if I hold Shift, I can click more than one model, and now you can see they both are outlined, and I can move them both together.
All right, real quick. If you're enjoying what you're watching so far, you can show your support by hitting that subscribe button, giving me a thumbs up, and even sharing this so I can teach even more people. And that concludes my shameless plug. So let's get back to the video.
Okay, so I went ahead and sliced my model, and I am going to click Preview so I can see what the slice looks like. So if I click Preview here, or I can just come up here to hit Preview. Now, this is the view type as well, my layer view. I'm looking at it through my layer view right here. I can switch to my X-ray view, and you can see that I can no longer have control to see my lines, and this gives you a completely different color. Like, everything is completely different here. And you're essentially looking through the model. The purpose of this, I don't know. If you have stuff inside of another model, possibly I could see that. Like if it's a model inside a model, that might be kind of cool so you can see it easier, but I don't know what this is really for. I've never used it. I like to see how my model is being sliced, so I always am in layer view. So I've seen from time to time people have different views set up, and they're kind of confused because they see somebody with one view and it doesn't look the same. If you look here, this is my fully 3D printed model right here. And it's all one color. If I scroll down here, it's still one color. It shows all my supports and all of that. And it's yellow because of my material color. We're talking about all of the different color schemes when we're previewing our models once they've been sliced. It is going to show the color that Cura designates that specific material or filament. In this case, I am printing in PLA generic, and PLA generic setting is always yellow for me. Okay. Now to switch our color scheme. This is material color. Now my favorite and one of the most popular is probably line type. When you go to this drop down and click on line type, it will actually break down all of the different types of things Cura is printing for you. Because it's not just a 3D print. It's printing supports, it's printing your shell, there's infills, your starts, and it can show your extruder. So there's a lot here. If I check all of these, it's going to be an absolute mess. Because it's also showing the travels, and this is where your nozzle is actually traveling. It shows the full path of the entire print. So if you want to actually turn off some of these colors, you absolutely can. So if I turn off everything except for travels, you're going to see this is actually everywhere your nozzle is going. So we're only showing our travels right now, but you're probably wondering, why are there two different colors if we're only showing the travels? There's two different types of travels. There is your print speed, which is when it's actually putting out filament. and that is the dark blue. Then there is your actual travels to get to another part of your model. So it might be traveling over to do a support or traveling over to where there's another part on the model to start printing on. And that is more of that light purple lilac line, because it's not actually pushing out filament when it's moving on those lines. So now that travels is turned off, now you can see that there are a few more left here. So if we just click on helpers, we can see that what helpers are, if you haven't guessed already, is just your supports. If you only printed the supports of your 3D print, this is exactly what it would look like. Now there's two different colors of supports, just like there's two different colors for travel. This teal color is actually just your normal supports. This purplish color here is actually your roof interface. And the interface is what interfaces with your 3D print. If you're unfamiliar with what roof and floor interfaces are, I strongly recommend you checking out my tutorial where I break down roof interfaces and floor interfaces. It'll really help you understand what these are, because these are the most important part of supports. And I'll go ahead and put the link to that right up here at the top. So moving on down the color list, I'm going to turn off helpers and click on shell. Now our shell is red. Now what is our shell? Our shell is our outmost ring of our 3D print. And what do I mean by ring? Let me actually slice this down a little bit. And then we can zoom in to the edge. So this actually has, if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My wall thickness is 5 layers. But my shell is only 1 because it's the outmost layer, and that is red. Now my inner walls are green, and if I click on my drop down right here, you can see inner wall, and you see that green icon right there. Then you also see top/bottom is yellow. Now if we look here, let's go all the way down. Now I have gone all the way down, and you can see that this layer right here is all yellow because this is my bottom layer. And it's also, you can see my shell, which is the outmost ring around the 3D print for this layer, and then my walls are green. If I go all the way to the top and I click my top view and then I zoom in, so if I go all the way to the top and zoom into the very last layer, you can see that there is some infill of the top layer, and this is that yellow. And that's what it means by top and bottom. It's essentially the infill of the last layer. So here's my top one, and if I go all the way to the bottom, here's the bottom one with the yellow. So to reset the view of my model, let's turn off shell and let's look at our infill. And I'm using gyroid, which honestly always looks so freaking cool when you're just looking at infill. So this is actually all of the infill of this model. Now, the infill density is pretty high, and this is just so you can kind of see the entire shape. So if you're ever curious about how well your infill is actually supporting your model, you can actually do this and just kind of scrub through and see it, because that is everything orange. So zooming into my model, the last thing we have is starts. And you can't see starts until you've actually turned on all of these. Starts is really easy to understand because all it is showing the point where your shell is starting. And that is indicated by those little white dots on each layer.
So I hope this video was valuable for you. If you don't think it was valuable, let me give you an idea of why it is valuable. After you slice your model and you just preview it and look at those different things by checking a few boxes and isolating your supports to make sure that they look good, or looking at your infill, maybe your density accidentally went to 50% instead of 5%. So that could also save you a ton of filament and explain why a 10-hour print is going to take 50 hours. So I recommend you guys starting to check these boxes and really look at your models and pick them apart. See if you can detect a failure before it happens. So I guess that being said, no matter who you are, this is a useful video. I don't care what you say. Sorry. Unless you already knew what I explained. But then why would you watch all the way to the end? So, yeah, I'm not sorry either way. So if you've been following me for a while, you've probably already noticed that I really like to help people out when they have specific questions. And this video was actually targeted to a few different individuals because they were all asking the same question in different ways. So if you have some questions about Cura or anything else 3D printing related, please let me know in the comments and I can make a video for you too. But I will say, I might have already answered some of the questions you will come up with. All you have to do is check out my master playlist of Cura tutorials right up here. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.